Okay, let's see if this wants to act right today. Are you gonna act right? Okay, let's see if this wants to act right today. Yay! All right, good, good, good. I'm gonna have to keep testing this microphone. Sometimes it goes off. Yay! All right, if you are coming back, thank you so much. You know, I look young, but I'm not. Sometimes I don't get all the technology right. All right, let me make sure I'm on
If you are coming back,
here.
thank you so much. You know, I look young, but
sometimes I don't get all the
technology right.
All right, let
Y'all
me
look
make
young,
sure.
but
Sometimes I don't. All right, so let's go ahead and get into today's topic. Today, I want to talk about high cash flow rentals. And listen, I'm going to be going live for quite a bit, so feel free to hop in, hop out as you need to. But I am going to give everything that you need to buy a high cash flow rental. So this past weekend, I spoke at a really nice event, and I can't believe like how hard people think this is. So I'm going to give you everything. Like literally after this live, you should be able to log off and go do it like right now, with or without me. Now, if you want to do it with me, I'm Ashley Lorraine, M.Ed. I am a high cash flow rentals coach and mentor. I'm happy to walk you through it, but I'm about to give you everything anyway, so don't worry about it. Okay, so let's start with markets. If you are wanting to buy high cash flowing rental properties, you have to do it in a market that supports high cash flow. When I say market, I just mean like what city you're in, right? Or sometimes just what area or neighborhood. It can be that precise. I personally find that the best markets for high cash flow are going to be the Midwest and the Southeast in the United States, of course. Those are the best places for high cash flow. And I prefer the Middle East, the Midwest, for very many reasons. Number one, I'm from the Midwest, right? So I know that area well. I feel comfortable with it. Now, I do live in Texas, so I don't spend much time in the Midwest, but that's just where I started. My mentor also, she was an investor in the Midwest as well for over 20 years before she retired. So I just felt comfortable with the Midwest, and it just so happens that the place where I felt comfortable happens to be one of the best places for high cash flow. What do I mean by high cash flow? Because money can be relative, right? So typically, when people are looking for cash flow rentals, depending on what they want, if they're making like $200 a door or more, they're happy about it, right? But when I say high cash flow, I mean like some of my rentals are bringing in over $1,000 a month. And I love it when I say that to people because they assume that they're these like really expensive houses. But no, my buy box, I typically buy houses between $50 and $100,000. I don't buy houses over $100,000. Like it's very rare for me to do that. The only time I buy over 100,000 is when I'm buying for appreciation, and I'm usually just doing that here in Texas because we have a great market for appreciation, right? But Texas is not a good market for high cash flow. The Midwest is. So my number one advice to anyone out there who wants to buy high cash flow rentals, you have to go to the market where you can do that. So if you're in like, let's say right now, I'm in Houston, or if you're essentially, if you're anywhere other than the Midwest and the Southeast, and you're telling me that you want to invest for high cash flow, I'm going to tell you, you need to invest in those markets. Okay. And then people are always afraid, like, oh, well, the market is far away from me. What if I live in New York and the house is in the Midwest? And I'm thinking, like, do you know how many investors don't even live in the US and they have properties in the Midwest because they've already learned globally that the Midwest US is a great place for cash flow to just really like park your money for capital preservation? If they live next door to you, let's say if you had a rental property next door to you, and if your biggest concern is, well, what happens if something breaks? Okay, so if a pipe were to burst and the rental property was next door, are you going to suddenly turn into the Super Mario Brothers and become a great plumber and fix it? Or are you going to do what you would do if the house was 20,000 miles away, which is call a plumber and have the plumber go over to the house and fix the pipe? Okay, we are in what, 2025? Everything is virtual and remote these days. Most of you guys are working virtually and remotely. It really shouldn't have a huge sticker shock anymore, but for some of you it might, and I'm telling you now. I live in Texas. I have 3 small children. I never go to Ohio. Very rarely do I go up to the Midwest area. And that's where my Section 8 rentals are. My high cash flow rentals are there because that's where the high cash flow is. So go to the market that supports what you want. Okay. My next piece of advice is don't change what you want just because you're in a certain market that only has, let's say, appreciation. So you need to know why you're investing. Some people are investing for high cash flow, right? Some people are investing for appreciation. Some people are investing for maybe like a retirement plan or to level up their properties, so you want to buy some properties that you can quickly build equity in and then maybe trade them up for something else. I mean, there's many different reasons, but the people that I coach, I'm coaching people who want high cash flow. And it doesn't mean that's all you want, right? I mean, if you're going to have a portfolio, you want it diverse. You want some things for appreciation, some things for cash flow. But if you're just starting out, you definitely want to do cash flow first. You need to make sure you have some money because real estate is not free. I don't know where people get this thing from. Like when I'm coaching people and they're like, oh my gosh, I have to pay for coaching. You do know you're buying houses, right, that are $50,000 to $100,000. Yes, it costs money to invest in real estate. Even when we say things like no money down, no credit, and things like that, come on, if you have a tenant in there, and let's say the tenant leaves, you have to still pay for the mortgage if you have a mortgage on it. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but I don't want to burst anyone's bubble. Because when I first got started, I also was doing like the no money down, the no credit needed, creative things like subject to owner finance. There's a place for that, but it's still not free. You still have to pay the holding costs. You still have to, I digress. My point is you need to have some high cash flow properties in your portfolio. And if you're just starting, you want to start your portfolio with high cash flow properties. If you have a bunch of leverage properties in your portfolio, meaning you have mortgages on most of your houses, you definitely need to throw 1 or 2 high cash flow properties in there because things happen and you really want your assets to cover expenses. You don't want to have to pull out of your pocket to do that. Okay. So let's talk a little bit more about what I was saying in terms of don't change what you want. So I've seen people very rarely, but like, let's say, since I live in Texas, right? This is not a place for great cash flow, but it's a great place for appreciation. So I've seen some people say, okay, well, I know I want cash flow because, I want to supplement some of my income and, I have a kid going to college and I really want a property to really help cover her tuition. But this place isn't good for cash flow, so I'll just do appreciation. Big mistake. Big mistake. You do not shift your goals and try to make it work in the market that you're in. Okay, because appreciation is a long game. So if you're broke right now, I don't want to say broke, but let's say if you need more cash flow coming in right now and you go the appreciation route, you can expect to lose the cash flow that you currently have. I mean, you'll get it back in the long run after the house appreciates, but that's going to be years down the line. So be careful about that. If you know cash flow is what you want, stick to what you want and find the market that does it. And I'm not going to leave you hanging. Of course, I'm going to show you how to find the market. I'll go ahead and just show you now. It's super easy. You can just start with Zillow. I'll just do Zillow because everyone has access to it. Don't judge my tabs, y'all. I got a lot of work. All right, so let's do Zillow real quick. Super easy. You just go to Zillow. And you guys can double check me. I already told you where to go. Go in the Midwest. So I can tell you one place in the Midwest that I've been looking at is Memphis. So I'll look up Memphis, Tennessee. And you can look at these home prices. I mean, the home prices look really nice to me, right? I like between 50 and 100, but look, if you're going to give me a $40,000 house, I'm going to take it. Now, of course, you want to look at the neighborhood, and that's easy. I'll show you a way to do that as well next. But right now, just preliminarily, if I were looking at this market to see, is this going to fit my buy box of I really want a house between $50,000 and $100,000, and I want it to cash flow, this is where I'm going to start. So I'm going to just limit my price to 100,000. All right, this one looks cute. I don't know why this one keeps catching my eye. So let's just take a look at it real quick. Okay, looks like someone started the rehab and didn't finish. Man, I'd be happy to take this house for 42,000. What? Ay, ay, ay. All right, but anyway, for the sake of this, I'm going to try to find one that's a little bit more finished. I'm only clicking around, so I have not pre-planned this. So excuse me if we're clicking together. Okay, this one looks good. This one looks like it'll pass inspection for rentals. Okay, yep. So I like that one. 3-bed, 1-bath. Okay, we got some 2 bedrooms over here. Wow, these houses are really like nice and finished for these prices. Okay, we're not on here for me to buy a house, although I really want to. I like these. Okay, so let's say I'm going to do this one for $83,000. All right, so we already kind of looked at the pictures. I like it. I like that it's 3-bed, 1-bath. Guys, for high cash flow rentals, you really don't want to try to go for the most bathrooms, right? Because you want to keep your maintenance fees as minimal as possible. I'm telling you, the more bathrooms, the more problems. They say more money, more problems, more bathrooms, more problems. And I know a lot of people are interested in duplexes. Same thing, more tenants, more problems, right? If I'm going for high cash flow, I really just want to try to have a house that has, 3 bedrooms, 1-bath is good. 4 bedrooms, 1-bath is even better. But if you really want to keep your budget low, 3-bed, 1-bath is just fine. In the Midwest, a lot of times the properties have attics. So if you get a 3-bed with an attic or a 2-bed with an attic, you can easily convert that attic, which I'll give you the secret to that because I'm giving you everything right now. So don't worry about it. All right, looks good. Let's see what the taxes and HOA and all that stuff might look like. These are just preliminary, but I'm just telling you, you can just go on Zillow real quick and just test the market. I don't know anything about this market yet. I'm just going on here to take a look. Ooh, look. Whoa, went way up. Somebody must have got it and rehabbed it. All right. Rent estimate is $11.59 a month. Already, this is looking great. It has exceeded the 1% rule, right? The 1% rule is you want it to be at least 1% of the purchase price. So if I'm going to buy this for $80,000, I want the rent to be at least $800. This rent is $1,100. Okay. Of course, you can double check this. If there's many other places to do it. Rentometer is good. You can have a realtor pull comps. You can compare it to other large platforms like Redfin. I know for me and a lot of my clients, I'm going to tell them to exit with Section 8. So I'll just look up the Section 8 website real quick. You can just go to FMR space HUD, and that will take you to the HUD website. HUD is for the Housing and Urban Development. It's the national or federal program that oversees Section 8 vouchers. Okay, click on the very first one. We want 2020. We can do 2026 numbers since it's up there, but you can also look at 2025 if you're like, yeah, I'm getting my rental tomorrow and I need to know how much it's going to pay me. So you go in here and now we're just going to find where we were investing. Looks like we were looking at Tennessee. So we'll go to Tennessee. I do not know the counties. Let's hope Zillow does. I have no idea what county this is. Let's just put it in and see if it'll tell us. 38127. What county is Shelby County. Okay, good old Shelby. I don't know where that is, but Shelby sounds like a fun name to say. All right, Shelby County. And now we're just going to look up that same zip code 38127 to see how much Section 8 is going to pay. 38127. All right, cool. So for a 3-bedroom, they're paying $1,570. We have almost doubled the 1% rule. Now do you see what I mean when I say high cash flow? Now do you get it? I'm going to try to pull up my calculator. Sometimes it doesn't let me. So, bear with me if you can't see it. Let's see if it works. All right, so let's say if we got that rent, and this is not, I'm not going to do a full breakdown on this yet, but I will tell you, Section 8, this is the rent they'll pay you if you're going to be including all utilities and all appliances. So on this same website, huduser.gov, or just do FMR space FMR, they have a sheet on here. It looks just like this, a table that would tell you how much they will deduct from your rent if you are not going to be providing appliances. So like for me in the Midwest, some areas where I invest, you don't have to provide appliances, and I don't, because of course, if you provide the appliances and they break, you are responsible for fixing them. Okay, so if they bring their own appliances and they break, they have to figure it out themselves. So just bear that in mind. Okay, but I'm going to just do it with these numbers to keep it simple, because this is not a full training. This is me just giving you everything you need. All right. So 1570, and then let's see what our expenses are going to be. So I'm just going to look up taxes and insurance. Obviously, to get the actual taxes, you can look it up on the county website. We might have time here. Or if you're looking up insurance, I usually do it like 1% of the purchase price. But if the purchase price is less than 100K, I usually just do it based on 100K. So I do it at 1,000. Let's see what they have for taxes. So the taxes are $925 a year. So 925 divided by 12, I don't know. So I'm just going to say it's $90. Okay, $60 a month. I was a little off. And then insurance is probably going to be closer to like $800 a year. They're saying it a little bit less, but I think it'll be closer to 800. So we'll go off of mine, which would be about another $60. So right now, my taxes and insurance is going to cost me $120 per month. So I'm going to subtract taxes and insurance. So this is my cash flow, $1,450 a month. Now, if you're going to get property management, I would take off 10% for that. And then you also want to have a buffer, so you can take off another 15% if you'd like to. And that's just so if something happens, because things do and will happen in your rental, instead of digging in your pocket, you can just take it from the cash flow. But typically when my cash flow is this high, I don't need such a buffer, because I can just take one rental payment, full payment, and just use that to pay for something that, small that I have to get fixed. But it is a good practice to put some aside. So you can go ahead and subtract that if you'd like to. So you can subtract another 145 for property management. I'm sorry, another 150 for property management. And then you can subtract like maybe another $200 just for like your safety net that you just always keep with you. Okay. But yeah, so that's it. Now I buy in cash, and I prefer to tell everyone else to do it, but I do know that 95% of people do not buy in cash. So let me give you another cool resource that you can use. This is one that I share a lot. So it is loan amortization. So let's say if you are going to get a loan, I guess it didn't want to show us the calculator. Let me try that one more time. Loan amortization calculator. Oh, it doesn't like that I keep pressing continue browsing. Got it. All right. So you can just put it in here. What's the home price if you're going to be getting a loan for it? $83,000. You're going to put down what, 15%. So just put in 15% here. Oh, actually, on investor loans this low, they're probably going to have you do full 20%. So let's just do 20 to be safe. If it's less than 20, great, but let's just be on the safe side. All right, so it looks like you're going to have 16,600 down if you are going to get this financed. Interest rate, I highly doubt you're going to get a 3.5% interest rate. So let's go ahead and raise you up to a nice healthy 7, maybe even 7.5. The interest rates on smaller loans like this can sometimes be a bit higher. And then let's do property taxes and insurance. So your property taxes are probably going to be closer to $800, even though Zillow said lower. Home insurance, I'm sorry, property taxes on this one was $950. Insurance, I think it's going to be about $800, a little higher than what Zillow said. HOA, no HOA. PMI, private mortgage insurance, you're not going to have that because you did a 20% down payment, and then you just calculate it from there. Okay, so now your total monthly payment is going to be $610. That's going to be your PITI, your payment, interest, taxes, and insurance. So now we know we were getting $1,570. And now that we have a mortgage payment, we're going to subtract the mortgage payment, the mortgage interest, the taxes, and the insurance, which is $610. So you'll subtract $610. Okay, $960. You are still, even with a loan on there, you are still crushing the 1%. That's crazy to me. Like I'm loving this market so far. Oh, wow. Wow, wow, wow. Very nice. Very nice. And then of course you can take off, for property management. So if you're going to be doing property management, there might be like another 150. And then out of that 810, you might want to put something aside, to steal your money, but just put it aside somewhere, just in case something pops up. But yeah, so $810 a month. You put in $83,000 and you're netting 810. Now, I know your jaw's already on the floor because that is just like a ridiculous amount of cash flow for a house with a mortgage. Okay, but don't forget other benefits that you get for these properties, right? So you're going to be able to write off depreciation for your taxes. Your taxes are going to be lower. And if you do have a loan, you always get some credit for making loan payments on your taxes. Um, don't forget that also in a house, when you buy an investment property, it's not like here's the house for $1 and I take the dollar. No, when you buy a house, the dollar stays in the house, right? It's building equity. So your $83,000 doesn't just disappear. It's just in the house now. So that just means you can sell the house at any time. You can pull cash out of it at any time for a refi if there's enough equity in it. But again, this is more for cash flow. So this is for people who want to buy and hold it and just get this 810 and this is net. This is not even gross. Like this is net. And then you think about it, you probably own the house, 20 years? So you just multiply that by 20 years. So 810 times, what's that going to be? 240 months. So in 10 years, you've made $194,000 in just net cash flow. And you put in $16,000. I don't feel like I should have to explain any further. This is like a slam dunk, no brainer. Do it right now. I'm probably going to buy it. I'm not a realtor, by the way, so I'm not trying to get anybody to buy anything. Okay. I'm just trying to teach you about high cash flow rentals. Now, this is quite a process. People who work with me, though, I created a chat GPT just specifically for my coaching and mentoring clients. So it does all the work for you. Like you literally would just go to Zillow and put in like a screenshot, just this screenshot right here, and it's going to analyze the entire deal for you with feedback, summaries, and everything. But for those of you who aren't working with me, hey, this didn't take long. What, it took 5 minutes to click on these 3 websites. So anyway, you can test more. If you're on here and you want me to test some markets for you, I'm happy to. Just let me know in the chat and I'll look them up on your behalf. I've done this before for people and it's interesting. Like I did one where the person was near Los Angeles and I couldn't believe like the price for just the down payment on one of those houses. You could have bought like 2 cash houses. It's crazy to me. So that's why I say market is so important because I can't think of any other market other than the Midwest and the Southeast where you can put in $16,000 on a loan and then you're making like this ridiculous amount of cash flow every single month. It's insane. So this is why I say you gotta be open to other markets. It's required at this point if that's what you want. And you can look it up and see if other markets would even be able to do it. Like I did a seminar recently here in Houston. It was like face to face. And they were telling me about some Houston homes that were like less expensive. And, I'll run it for you just like I did for them. So you can see for yourself. So let's see, this house is, okay, 79,000. So let's look at this one. We'll look through it. Ooh, whoa, needs way too much work. It's hard to find a house like this in Houston that's like already ready to go because of all the flood damage and stuff. But I'll run it because I said I would, but let me just see. It's not going to be apples to apples at that price. This is a 2-bedroom. Okay, all right. Oh, it's an apartment. Got excited. And let's see, this one looks promising. If I don't find one, eventually I'm just going to click on one just so we can do a quick comparison. 100,000. Okay, not bad. Not bad. Okay, we can click on this one, even though it's only a 2-bedroom. We might just have to pretend it's a 3-bedroom. This one looks cute. Never mind, another apartment. Okay, let's just go with this one. So this one is 100,000. Looks like it's pretty rent ready. You don't have to do a whole lot to get it ready to go. It does not list the HOA. I do not believe that. In Houston, almost everywhere has an HOA. So just go ahead and be prepared for that right off the bat. Okay, we can look up the taxes and insurance just like we did last time. Okay, so same thing. If you like, you can just do it quickly on your computer. I'm sorry, on your calculator, or we can just put it into this whole little shebang. So we'll do the same thing. We'll go to HUD. This time we're going to look up Texas. Looks like it was Houston proper. So that would be Harris County. All right. And then we're going to look up the zip code. The zip code was 77028. Okay. Oh, it's only a 2-bedroom. I wish it was a 3. 2-bedroom, so 1310, which is still not bad. I mean, you're still going to get great cash flow. I just get very spoiled because I'm in the Midwest, so don't read my face. Okay, this is still good. So let's go ahead and look in here because it could be that maybe the cash renter might be more, right? But we'll see in a sec. So let's go back to Zillow. Let's see what their estimate was for rent. All right, so their estimate is 1149, very much aligned to Section 8. So we can go with that. I feel confident with our number. So Section 8 said 1310 for a 2-bedroom. I hate this too because I would have loved to compare it to another 3, but because Section 8 pays by the bedroom. I wish it was a 3-bedroom, but it's not. So $100,000. So you already know your down payment is going to be $20,000. Interest rate is probably going to stay about the same, 30 years. Okay, property taxes, 1812. Yeah, that's one thing that I tell people about Houston. There's 3 things that's going to get you when you're trying to invest in Houston, but compare it to like a really high cash flow market like the Midwest or Southeast. It's going to be our property taxes are crazy, as you can see, double what it was in Memphis. Our HOAs are crazy and they can foreclose. They have like so many rights. And you know what else is high for Houston? Insurance, because what do we get? Hurricanes, floods. Last year we had tornadoes. So just be ready for that. Anyway, property taxes, 1812. So that's going to be 1812 divided by 12 months. So what is that? 151 a month? Okay, they had it about right here, 133. Home insurance is going to be way more than that. They're just using a simple, like what I do too. You just kind of estimate based on a percentage. But I can tell you right now, your home insurance is going to be a lot more than that, especially in Houston. So we can just do it based on the 1% rule. So we'll just say it's going to be $1,000. So let's just do $100 per month just to be safe. But I'm telling you, you're going to have to get homeowners insurance, and you also have to get the flood add-on when you live in Houston. But Zillow doesn't know Houston, right? Okay, so anyway, I'll just estimate your insurance at 100 a month. So that'll take us to about 235 a month for taxes and insurance, which is not bad. So if you were to look that up, come on, calculator, don't go down on me. All right, here we go. So if you're not going to get a loan on it because it's less than $100,000, then it would be how much rent we're getting, which is 1310. Then we're going to take off our taxes and insurance, which we said is going to be about 240. So cash flow is 1,070. It's right at that 1%, although it should be 1% gross, but this is already still meeting 1% net. It's great. Not bad, right? Now let's see what happens if you get a loan on it. Property taxes were 18 something a year. I can't remember, so I'm just going to put 1850. Homeowners insurance probably about 1,000, probably more with the flood add-on, but I don't want to be clicking around for the sake of this. HOA, it says 0. I highly doubt that, but we'll go with it for now, and then you can just calculate it. Okay, so your total monthly payment is going to be $796.87. And you're making 1370, was it? I keep forgetting. 1310. You're making 1310. You're going to subtract your pity, which is 797. So 513 And then of course, if you're going to get a property manager in there, you want to subtract about 130, 10% of the rents. And then you want to, of course, put a little bit of this aside. So you can see now the same price in Houston is not necessarily apples to apples, right? Because you're not going to get as many bedrooms. Section 8 pays by the bedroom. Or if you're going to be doing the shared living exit, right, you need more bedrooms. You're going to have higher property insurance in Houston, higher property taxes in Houston, and you're going to have HOA in Houston. So I know a lot of times people are thinking like, oh, they just look at the home price, but they don't really understand the market and the different expenses that you might incur. And again, this is just down and dirty, super preliminary. The chat that I created for my students, literally, it does all of this in a snapshot. I guess I could show you guys real quick. So like for the chat that I created for my people, I usually just do like a quick little snapshot. Try to make this a little smaller if I can. Try to give chat what I can on it. Scoot on over. Do not try this in your own chat GPT. Mine is trained with all of my stuff on it. So please do not try this in your own GPT and then say, oh my gosh, what happened? Okay, because I'm gonna tell you what happened. It's not trained, okay? All right. So let's see here. Let's go to this chat real quick. How y'all doing? Y'all okay? Anything you guys want me to cover specifically before I go into showing this GPT? I'm happy to research any market for you, running numbers for you. I'll be here for a while. So I don't mind at all, but let's go ahead and run this through the GPT that I created for my students and just show you how fast it is. Save you a lot of time. Let's get this history off. Okay, let's go into the chat. All right, so usually I just put a little screenshot in there, upload it, and I let it do its thing. So it gives you all the steps, then it gives you all the numbers. It already pulls everything from Section 8. It's already going to compare it to the market rents if you were to do it in cash. It's already going to give you the different tests that you might want to put it against to see if it's going to make sense for you. So, and it came with the same conclusion as me. It's just too low for cash flow. It just wouldn't be worth it. All right. So anyway, this is why the market is so important. And this is why I love giving these kind of things to my lovely students and members, because it just snapped like that. You don't even have to have me on the call telling you. You can just go right to the GPT that I created for you, and it's going to tell you, nope, that's not the one. You don't want to do that one. All right, let's talk about, we can talk a little bit about loans versus cash. So I always preach that people should use cash if you can. You can pull it from your IRA. My very first rental property, I pulled it from my retirement funds. Yep, I went ahead and paid the penalty on it and everything and never looked back, and I'm glad I didn't. So those are options. Of course, you can just do good old-fashioned saving, but I know a lot of us are like in the middle class or high middle class, affluent, and the mindset is different when you get to wealth. And when I say wealth, I mean like freedom of time, freedom of finances, freedom of emotional stress, freedom of mental stress, and the mindset is different there. So when you think of a loan in the, middle class, affluent, working, professional people and things like that, you're thinking like, oh, I have to pay less money up front and I still get to have this asset, right? But what you're not understanding is like a loan, it's a promissory note saying that for the next 30 years, you are going to work, or you're going to sacrifice some of your retirement, do whatever you have to do to pay that loan every single month. And if you don't pay it, you can pay it for 29 years. And if you don't pay it 29 years and 3 months, it gets foreclosed and you don't get any of that back. Okay, so that's not really an asset. You don't really own it. The bank does. Just be careful with all of the loans. When you get to the wealth side of things, you start thinking more in terms of life and quality. You don't want to have loans hanging over your head. That's not living. Tenant moves out and then you still have to make the loan payment and you can't even enjoy your time on the beach because you're like, how am I going to make this payment? I got to move this over here. That's not living. You don't want that life. Now, obviously, I know some of us are going to need to get at least one loan to just get in the game and get started. And that's cool. And your goal should be to pay that loan off. Okay. I know that's the opposite of what everyone else is going to tell you. Everyone's telling you, get a loan, get a loan, get a loan, get a loan. You know why? Because they're like me, they're lenders, right? So of course I'm going to tell you to get a loan, especially if I'm the lender, because I know I'm actually the one who's making money. I'm actually the one getting an asset and I can borrow against it and do all kinds of things with it, right? People don't tell you that. That's why I love doing this live because you get everything you need. Okay. So whenever I think about loans, I always think about something I call the Ashley method, 6 steps, ASHLEY. Very quickly, I'll go over it. Well, I got time. I'm staying on here. Ashley method. So the A is for asset. You want to have assets. Assets should pay you. You should not pay it. Okay. So if you have a loan on a property, you have to pay it. And I know someone's going to say, well, yeah, but my cash flow covers it. Well, that tells me you haven't been investing very long because you haven't been through much. Okay. But if you've gone through COVID, where we had the moratoriums, or if you've gone through even what's happening right now, where a lot of people just can't afford, to make their rent payments sometimes, you understand that you have to pay it. You have to be the one to step in and still make that mortgage payment. Things happen, repairs come up, the unforeseen things. I had one property where it was no fault of mine or the tenants. That city decided that they wanted everyone to have their gas meters at the front of the house instead of on the side of the house. So the city came out and they did the lines for the exterior, but the owners were responsible for moving the lines from the interior of the house to make it to the exterior towards the front. Random expense that had to be paid. Or some properties, are in areas where they have whenever the administration changes, so you get a new mayor or new legislators, new council people, and now they decide they want to have all these new compliance laws, right? So there was one time in a market where we were all getting hit with all of these like fines and fees, and we're like, what? And they're like, yeah, because you don't have this registration and you need to have these windows switched out. And we're like, when did that happen? So now suddenly we all had to fork up money to get our windows exchanged or get all of these lead tests and things like that. So these are rare examples, but they happen. So just, be careful with loans. So A is for assets. S is for saving is silly. Saving is silly. The only time you should be saving is if you're saving up to buy an asset and let that asset pay for your life. I had a retirement account. I was a school principal and a teacher for a very long time. And this is before I even had a wealth mindset. I knew I wanted to get out of that rat race. And I knew that loan sounded like just another rat race, right? Now I got to just work hard to pay the loan. Same thing. So anyway, I pulled from my retirement, what I had been saving, right? But I pulled from my retirement and I bought an asset, and that asset's cash flow. I mean, looking back now, it makes my retirement look like it was hardly anything. They don't pay teachers anything. They don't really pay as much money, but I'm like, that house has made me so much money. My retirement could never. It's just true. So anyway, saving is silly. If you're going to be saving, save it to buy an asset and let that asset then add more to your life financially or freedom or things like that. Okay. We did the A, we did the S, the H. So, oh man, we're about to get into some, I don't want to offend anybody, but I feel like we still got to talk about it. Okay. John, don't be mad at me, okay? Okay. So the H in Ashley, I'm going to be mad at me for this one. Okay. Let me just say this very nicely. I know that many of us were taught certain things about money, so I don't want to offend your parents. I don't want to offend your grandparents or anybody that you look up to, because I know that they were trying to help you and they were just giving you what they know, and they were really trying to make you great, right? Okay, so, all right, we're cool, right? You need high cash flow. I know people are going to tell you appreciation, or you need to save, or wait until you're 65 and then you'll be able to live off. Listen to me. You need high cash flow. I don't care what job you have. I have clients with all kinds of jobs, all kinds of income. Some of them, I mean, make so much money. I'm like, oh my God, right? And I still preach to them, you need high cash flow, even if it's not to help with your personal finances, but you need it to cover other parts of your business or other things that might come up. So like, let's say if something breaks in your house, you want the cash flow to cover that. You don't want to have to go into your own pockets for it. Or even for me, like I give my job, I mean, and I'll get into this later, but I give my cash flow jobs. Like I have some properties that are assigned to just pay my mortgage, or I have some properties that are assigned just for like stuff the kids need. Like, I'm telling you, high cash flow. Even if you don't have a whole lot of it in your portfolio, but your first few properties need to be cash flow. You do not want to be cash poor and have properties that you can't maintain. And if you have a bunch of houses that are mortgaged or leveraged in your portfolio, you need a high cash flowing asset to cover, because those, in my opinion, those assets or mortgages are just liabilities. But at least you'll have one true asset that's high cash flowing that can cover the liabilities for those mortgages. So when you think about like when COVID happened, and I had a lot of people wanting to work with me then during COVID, because we were still getting payments from Section 8 while their cash tenants weren't paying. And so anyway, long story short, once I got a lot of them, their Section 8 properties, and they were high cash flowing, now they didn't have to worry about covering the mortgage on their rental properties, because they can just have their high cash flowing Section 8 properties cover that mortgage, and they can have a good life. So I'm telling you, high cash flow. I'm not saying your mom lied to you. I'm not saying your granddad was wrong. I'm just saying consider a different perspective. Okay. The L is for loans or liabilities. I don't care what these people try to tell you. I don't care how they try to frame it. And I already know who you're going to reference on loans, right? And I can tell you now, he is my coach's coach, and he didn't even write that book that you're probably going to be thinking of and referencing. Okay. And he definitely has paid off all of his loans and his debt. Okay. So I'm telling you, loans are liabilities. You are literally signing and saying, I am going to beg, borrow, scrape, do whatever I have to do to make this loan payment, or I'm going to give up the asset that I've been paying for all those years and give up the equity and give it back. I'm telling you, they are liabilities. So, people want to go in and be like, yeah, I got 20 doors, then they're all leveraged. And then now trust me, as a coach, I can see everybody's back end. I see how much investors are actually making, right? They're not bringing in much per door, but they get to say they have 20 doors. Where you just saw the example I showed you earlier on here. One house is bringing me in $1,500 a month. I don't need 5 doors. I just need one good one. Okay, so it's a big difference. Just please believe me on this one. Now, I know some of us have to get a loan because, maybe you don't have savings, maybe you don't have retirement, but you have good credit. And right now, that's all you can do to get in the game. No problem. All I'm going to say to you is you leverage that property to get a high cash flowing property in cash. That's all I would ask you to do. Okay, just make a plan that maybe this one has to have a loan on it because you need to just get in. Cool. Everybody, I mean, it's 95% of investors are going to do that. All I ask is that you have a plan to get that loan paid off quickly, or a plan to leverage that property so that you can level it up, or, pull the equity out, sell it, whatever you need to do so that you can just go ahead and buy a cash property. I'm telling you. E is for employee and equity. So just in a couple of examples, when I say employee, my houses are my employees. So just like a lot of you guys might own businesses, or you work for a business or a company or a corporation, the employees are people. Well, my employees are houses. And houses are a whole lot easier than people. I can tell you that now. Okay, but my houses work. All they have to do is exist and be maintained and house people. And they're going to be bringing me in a check every single month. And I give them a job. So I always share the story like my son is like, man, everyone else in our school has like all these nice cars and Porsches and, Rolls Royces and all of that, mom. Why do we have to have a Nissan? And I said, because mommy actually understands wealth and I am not spending my money to get a loan on a car. And we have a house, a rental property that says how much we can spend on the car. Whatever that rental property makes, that's how much the car can be worth. So that rental property brings in about $1,000 per month. That means I have to have a car with a note that's less than 1,000, and it has to be able to cover the insurance payment, and it has to be able to cover the easy tag. You want to get on the highway, it has to cover maintenance for the car and everything. So that house tells me the kind of car that I get to drive. But unlike that dad with the Porsche, I'm not paying it out of my pockets, right? There's a house assigned to pay that. When I say equity, I mean, since you bought that house in cash, let's say the worst case scenario, something happens and you're like, I got to pull my cash out. Great. Sell the house. And if you're selling the house with the tenant in there, oh my God, you get way more than what you paid for the house. The house still appreciates, right? It's just not in a high appreciating market, so it's not going to appreciate as quickly, but it's going to appreciate. Or you can just, if you like to, instead of selling it, you could just pull the cash out and do a cash out refinance or get a late mortgage on there. Call it a late purchase. Get a mortgage on there if you need to and pull your cash out. It's just sitting there. The money doesn't go away. It's just sitting in the house as an asset. Okay. All right. And let's get into why. Why is for Yaris. You ever heard of the little Toyota Yaris? It's like their most basic car. You still got to like roll the windows up like that. I mean, it is basic. But I always say get a Yari instead of a Ferrari. Okay. What I like about the Toyota Yaris is that thing is durable. It's going to start and do everything it needs to do, but it's super inexpensive. It's probably like one of the most inexpensive cars out there. And you want that when you're getting your first property because you're new. You don't know anything yet. You shouldn't, right? Because you're new. You need a property where you can practice without penalty. So when you don't have a loan on a house, and let's say, oh man, something didn't work out with the tenant, you don't feel that stress of how am I going to make this mortgage payment? I'm barely able to pay my mortgage at home. Now I have to make this mortgage payment over here. There's no loan on it. Yes, you're going to get another tenant in there, but you're not stressed. You're not going crazy about it, right? You need to be able to, if something goes wrong on the house, it's less expensive. You can get a handyman and just go out there. It's a cash house, right? Just like a Toyota Yaris. That's what you want to get. You want to get your kids something like that when they first start driving, right? Why? Because they're new. They don't know anything about driving and they shouldn't, right? Because they're new drivers. So you want to get them a car where they're going to scratch it. Or if they hit the curb and blow the tire out, cool, they can just put the donut on there. No one cares. Okay. But if you're trying to start with a Ferrari, which alone, in my opinion, is a Ferrari version of buying a house. That means it's finicky. It is high maintenance. Like you have to take care of it, right? So if you get a scratch on your Ferrari, I mean, that's thousands of dollars just to get the scratch off. And everyone's like, oh my God, there's a scratch. If you go and bump it on the curb, you're not just throwing a donut on there, right? And a loan is the same way. There, you have to be careful. You cannot make mistakes. You better suddenly become the best keeping a house occupied person in the universe, or you're going to be on the hook for that mortgage. So you really want to start with a practice without penalty property. You do not want to have a property that has a loan on it because you don't have any room for mistakes and you're going to make mistakes. Give yourself some space for that. So you don't need to go out and try to buy the most expensive house and all. This is not a bragging contest. Okay. This is real life. This is wealth. Business is not sexy. If you're doing business right, it should be the most boring plain house you've ever seen in your whole entire life. And that thing is cash flowing like crazy, like I just showed you. Okay, so that's ASHLEY, the Ashley method. And I'm not judging you again if you have to get a loan because I do understand there are some instances where you do have to. But if there's any way you can raise it from your friends, from your family, your retirement, your savings, whatever you can do, try to get that cash house. I'm telling you. the freedom it gives you is unmatched. I always tell people, like, when you have a coach, because there's so many coaches out here, right? But you see the coaches, they're stressed. They're like trying to sell. I need you to buy this and do this. And they always seem like high strung. And sometimes they're like overweight or, weird. Or I'm not judging anyone for their appearance. My point is lifestyle, right? Like, don't try to tell me that I need to get into real estate because it's going to make me rich and do all of this stuff for me. But then I look at you, I'm like, you're overweight, you're not eating right, you're stressed out all the time, you're on here yelling at people, and we got to buy now, 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 now. Like, that doesn't seem like a stress-free life. Like that, I'll pass. Right? And I'm not comparing myself to anyone, but when you look at me, I'm like, I have nice skin because I get to have slow mornings where I just do my morning routine. My biggest appointment of the day usually is making sure that I run or have yoga. I eat well. I have a very easy life. I spend every morning with my kids, making them pancakes, taking them to school. You know what I mean? Like, that is the kind of life that you want to aspire to, one that truly is just true wealth, which again is not just money. Wealth to me is wealth in your freedom, wealth in your time, wealth in your finances, wealth in your mental, wealth in your emotional, wealth in your physical, your health. Like, that is true wealth. I would listen. There's a book called Life in Air that I tell you more about it. But anyway, let's go into some scenarios. What time is it? 8:20. All right, we got time. Let's go into some scenarios, and I can just show you some actual deals that we've done. What do you think about that? All right, give me a sec to share my screen, and I'm going to show you some actual numbers of some actual properties that me or some of my students and members have done together. Let's see here. Which one should we start with? All right, we'll do one that I just showed at the seminar. Make sure everything's redacted. We don't need everybody seeing anybody's business. Is this one redacted? Okay. All right, just had to make sure before I show it. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this property. This is one, of course, in the Midwest because that's where I love to invest. It's unmatched for cash flow. It really is. And let's take a look at what we have here. So this is a HUD statement. If you've never heard of a HUD statement, a HUD is like your receipt at closing. You get this from the title company. Usually there's a buyer side and a seller side, and it just gives you a summary of the financial transaction that took place. So, man, this one's hard to see. I wonder if I can zoom in on here. I'm going to see if I can zoom in so you guys can really see this one. Oh, I forgot I zoomed out earlier for something we were doing. There we go. I was actually making it smaller. That's so funny. Let's see. There we go. There we go. Okay, so if you can see, and I know it's super tiny, but it'll show you some numbers. So to show you how much we pay for the house, which this house we paid $30,000 contract sales price. And then the settlement charges, that was our closing costs and wholesaler. We got this from a wholesaler, and the wholesaler made some good money on this one. They made like $13,000. Pretty nice, right? So all in, the house cost $44,719. Not the house, but the transaction, right? The house itself was $30,000 plus the fees that we paid to the wholesaler. All right, so I always show the HUD because you want to see receipts. Like, if you're going to be working with someone, you want to see that they actually do what they're telling you to do. So anyway, all in, we were at 42,000, and as you can see, we bought it in cash. Okay, I practice what I preach. So we bought it in cash for $42,451. And then, so we can make this smaller. This is the house. It's nice, right? Nice house, good condition, pretty cool neighborhood. And then we got an appraisal. So let's take a look at what it appraised for. You guys saw what I bought it for, right? I bought it for, all in, I was at 42,000. Purchase price was 30, but I also paid a wholesaler. So let's see if we can make this pretty. Does not like me to zoom in. See if we can make this work. All right, so you can see here, same address. We do have some things redacted, obviously. And let's see what this baby appraised for. All right, so it shows here our all-in price was $43,000. I'm here under contract price. Might be on the next one. Oh yeah, here it is. So down here shows you where it appraised. So down here, it appraised for $122,000. And this appraisal was done, what is this, 2 weeks after purchase? Can y'all even see that? There we go. Oh yeah, now it's nice and big. You can see it now. Okay. And then it said if we made some improvements to it and had it like fully rehabbed at the time of inspection, it would be worth $157,000. But we were just getting it rent ready, so I'm not doing all of that. Remember, I'm doing this for cash flow. I'm not about to put, I paid $43,000 in all, and it's worth $122,000. Like, when? Already. So if you're doing the math, you're already seeing the equity that I have. We're not even into the cash flow yet, right? I love showing these. I know some people are like, how did you do this? How did you do this? I do this all the time, right? This is what I do professionally. So this is, I know it's just what I do. All right, so minus the $42,000 that we paid. So I have $80,000 just sitting there in equity if I ever need to pull it out. All right, and then let's take a look at the other page. I think this one just breaks it down with the comps. Yeah. All right, and so let's get into the how much we had to pay. So I had to pay $14,000 in total for repairs. These are just some small things that had to get done to get the house rent ready. Nothing crazy at all. So 14,000. So that adds to my expenses, right? So now my expenses are, where'd you go, calculator? Okay, so I paid 30,000 for the house. Then I paid the wholesaler 13,000, and I paid closing costs was about 1,500, 2,000. So that was another 15,000-ish, less than that, but I like to estimate for the higher. And then I had to do $14,000 in repairs to get it rent ready. All right, so I was all in at $59,000. And my contractor is the best. That's really why most people work with me. I know most of y'all just want to work with me because you want to take my contractors. That's the hardest part of real estate investing, in my opinion. So all in at $59,000, right? Nice house. Now let's see how much rent we got for it. So this is from the tenant placement agent that we use. This is one of the voucher programs that we use. And this voucher program, $1,600 a month. Yeah, that's it. $1,600 a month. There's no mortgage on it. So that $1,600 a month is mine. I mean, $1,600 a month. Now let's talk about taxes and insurance. So, I love receipts. So the taxes, the insurance on this was $1,160. So $1,160, I'm just going to say $1,200 because it's easier that way. So that's going to be $100 a month. So minus 100. Okay. And then of course you have to pay good old taxes. So the taxes for this house is, they do about a half year here. So it's about $850 a year. Oh my God, I do not want to even try to do the math on that. So I'm going to just say $80 a month, probably a little less, but I'm still just going to say that, okay? So we're going to subtract $80. So $1,420. Then property management, if you're going to do property management, you can take off another $150. You don't have to. I mean, these days there's so many apps and things for it, but if you want to, because you're likely going to be investing remotely or virtually, you might feel more comfortable with a property manager. Okay, $1,270. And then let's say you just want to put something to the side, just in case something happens. You just want to have something on the side just in case. Okay, cool. You could do maybe another 200. When there's so much cash flow, I don't care. Okay, so I'm left with 1,070. Now, if you're familiar with the 1% rule, we have blown that out of the water. This is our net after expenses, after buffer, after property management. We're still double the 1% rule. The house all in was 59,000, right? That's 59,000. And that includes the repairs to get it rent ready. And that also includes fees to the wholesaler, includes closing costs and purchase price. That's it. Do these all day. Yeah. So you can do this now, right? I just showed you exactly what I do and how I do it. If you watch this entire live, if you haven't, go back for the replay at the beginning. I show you like how to find the market, how to test it for how much rent you'll be able to get. I mean, go do it. Nothing is stopping you. Go for it. Go for it. Okay. I can show you a little bit of what we do, because the biggest thing that you're going to run into when you're investing virtually, obviously, is it's virtual. You don't know people there. You don't have boots on the ground. You know, contractors are hard to vet as is. So that part can get very tricky. So I'll show you who's on our team and why people really like to work with us in our markets. Obviously, people like to work with us in our markets. The number one reason is because we're in a market that, I mean, it just has the highest cash flow. I mean, you can't beat the Midwest, right? So obviously people like that we're plugged into that market. So I'll preface with that. So some things that we have, we of course have a local realtor, several of them that we work with. And a lot of times they are going to be like showing the properties or sending us deals, keeping our deal flow full, negotiating on our behalf so we can get the best prices. We also work with wholesalers. You saw the example I just showed you came from a wholesaler. He made a lot of money on that deal, pretty good. I don't count wholesalers' money, by the way. If it's a good deal, it's a good deal. Like that was a great deal. Some people will see, well, that wholesaler's making 13,000. I'm going to try to haggle for what? I digress. Anyway, wholesalers. So we have several wholesalers who are sending us deals constantly. That keeps the deal flow up. And they know the market really well. Like wholesalers and realtors know the market because they're analyzing deals in this market all day long for different buyers. Of course, my general contractor is the hidden gem. That's going to be the hardest part of anything that you do, is finding a reputable contractor who's going to do what they said they're going to do at the price they said they're going to do it and the timeline that they said they're going to do it, especially if you're working with a loan like hard money or something like that. My general contractor, I've worked with them for almost a decade now. I mean, they're the best. I always recommend them to my clients. I have some clients who, like I have one who went on to buy like 54 properties, and that client still uses that general contractor. Like that contractor is just amazing. You also want to have a handyman. If you're gonna have a property manager, I can tell you, the way that they make their money really is on adding an additional cost for repairs and maintenance and things like that. But if you have a handyman, and good old Excel, I mean, you only have a couple of properties, you can definitely self-manage, but you want to have a handyman. So like the handyman is like kind of a good at everything type of person, right? Like anything from unclogging the toilet to fixing a couple pieces of siding on the house. You just want to be able to send them out for the ins and outs. And of course, you don't have to pay that high property management fee on top of it. We have several handymen that we use, several of them. Some of them are even some of my family members or people I went to school with. Property manager, again, you want to have one that is experienced in Section 8 because it's just a different culture. It's just a different level of compliance and things like that. Keep in mind, though, be careful with property managers, right? Like sometimes they're going to make suggestions on repairs, rehabs, even on tenants. You have to remember at the end of the day, you are the owner. The buck stops with you. Okay, so they can put a tenant in there, and let's say that tenant ends up being a problem tenant and you have to evict them, you're not making money. The property management company is going to say, oh, sorry, we messed up. We'll cover the mortgage for you. No, you are still responsible. So just you still have to manage your property manager. That's why I like to give people my preferred property management companies, because I know they're going to take good care of you. Tenant placement agent, important that you guys are on the same page. Mine is amazing. I like mine because mine has networks with many different like programs, vouchers, legislatures. I mean, just all kinds of things. So our tenant placement agent always has tenants that are ready and our agent screens to our preference, which we like to do an extra level of screening. We don't want to have to be replacing tenants. We want forever tenants. And that our agent is very much aligned with that. You definitely want to have a Section 8 inspector contact. Okay. Section 8 inspector contact, because even if you get other voucher programs, Section 8 tends to be the most rigorous inspection. And it's who you know, right? I mean, sometimes you need a phone call made on your behalf. And our people, our pre-inspectors, they've previously worked for Section 8 or for the Housing Authority. They already have friends in there. They can just kind of get things done quickly for us. They're really good at making sure we pass and that we are always on the up and up. And when we call, our calls get answered when we call Section 8. I'll just leave it at that. It's who you know. Title company or real estate attorney. We have a couple of title companies that we use. It just kind of depends. Like if I'm doing something more creative, I'll use one title company. If I'm doing something just like straight, just basic, I'll use another one, just based on like fees and things like that. Insurance broker, definitely want to have a broker who understands landlord policies. Ours does. As a matter of fact, he taught me so many tips and tricks. He almost had me like ready to be an insurance broker. I'm like, this is, man, what? But he just has like a lot of gems that he gives. Like, what's one that I really liked? One that I really liked was he was talking about how a lot of times you'll get like the basic homeowner insurance coverage, but I didn't realize like there were certain things that you need to add and certain things that you can take off of a policy as a landlord that you might think is very important as a person who lives in a house, but might not be important to you as a landlord, and vice versa. Things that if you live in a house, you think this is not that important, but as a landlord, it is. So I like that he's just really granular in how he makes our insurance binders. Of course, lenders, private lenders, DSCR lenders. I do have private lenders. I just always tell people I'm not a broker, right? So you guys are going to have your own relationship and, do whatever. Obviously, they want to work with my people because they know if I'm analyzing the deal is good, the deal is profitable. And in the Midwest, I mean, it's probably profitable. So they're always looking to fund. But we also have DSCR lenders. And again, same thing in the Midwest, that DSCR ratio, they're usually looking for like 1.2. I mean, properties in the Midwest, they're going to blow that 1.2 out of the water. And what I like about DSCR, that's debt service coverage ratio, it just means like the house is going to qualify for the loan more than you are. And they just want to make sure that it's debt service coverage ratio. Can the house cover your debt service? And in the Midwest, absolutely. 100% of the time it can. Virtual assistant. So we have virtual assistants who are really just there to like help you through the process. Some of you guys are working 9 to 5s. You have other businesses or other investments. And the VA that we have work on your behalf, they're just doing things like if you need to call the title company or if you have a question for the insurance broker, but you don't get off work until 5, like they'll call and do it for you. Preliminary contracts, just anything administrative, but it's always offered to my clients as a service. And then, of course, an accountant, CPA. Important. So, and they don't have to be a CPA. I've seen some people who are just rental, like tax strategists or rental property, like pros, and they know more than CPAs, but just for the purpose of, me sharing this publicly, I'm just going to say CPA or accountant because they do have licenses and they have to be held accountable to it, but don't limit yourself to that. I can tell you the ones that I work with, listen, your taxes are going to be like amazing. They strategize, for instance, how you get a depreciation on properties. Well, you might be in a situation where maybe you don't want to take the full depreciation. So they'll walk you through that. Here's why you might not want to do that. Here are the repercussions or here are the benefits, just kind of based on your own personal situation. So anyway, those are just a couple of the main members of our team. And obviously those people who decide to work with me as your mentor, your guide through this, my team is your team. I've seen coaches where they're like, well, you can work with everyone, but you can't have my contractor. And I'll be honest, I used to be like that too. Well, not when I was coaching, when I was like raising funds and things like that. I never wanted people to have my contractor because it's like the hardest part in my opinion. And now I don't want people to have my tenant placement agent either. Actually, I don't want to have it anyway, but I want all of my clients to have it. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you a little secret and I'll show you an example. The reason why I want and need you to do well is a very selfish reason. When you go off to do well and you start to really grow your portfolio, I am then going to invest with you. Then I want to be your private lender, or maybe I want to buy some equity in your company. I know you're doing it the right way because I taught you. I know you have the team that's going to get it done because you're using my team. And I know you're in the right market because you're in my market. So selfishly, when you do well, you're really a part of my retirement plan. If I buy equity in your company or in a rev share for all of the properties that you have, in exchange for, me helping you for free or, me giving you some kind of like marketing, whatever you add, whatever you need, I'm going to give it to you. I want you to do well because I want to buy into your company. Or, if I see you're doing some great investments, you're doing things the way that I know is the right way, my way with my team, of course, I'm going to want to invest with you and be one of your private lenders. I mean, that's just smart. So anyway, I digress. I don't want to be getting too much into it. But oh, hey, Jermon. Good to see you. I hope I didn't miss you. If you have any questions or anything like that that you wanted me to cover, just let me know. I'd be happy to do it. I'm just on here talking. I've been on here for a while, but listen, I just gave you everything. They're literally, you should be able to go and use what I just gave you for free. All you had to do was just be on here tuned in, and you should now be able to go in, test the market, see if it's profitable, look up the expenses, and go be free. Go and do it. Go and do it. Okay. If you have any specific questions, of course, ask me. I'm going to be here for a while. If you're like, I love what you're talking about, Ashley, I want to do it in virtual markets, I want to get started tomorrow, you don't have to wait for me. I just gave you everything that you need to do it on your own. Okay. I'm not one of those people that's like, well, you have to do it with me, or go do it. I just showed you exactly how to do it. In real estate investing, we buy numbers, we buy math. I just showed you how to do the math. Now, of course, you can get as granular as you want on it, but that's what I like about the Midwest. You have so much room for error. Like, let's say if on that property, I made a mistake and I was $100 off. Okay, instead of making $1,100 a month in cash flow net, I make $1,000 net in cash flow. It's not a big deal, right? Whereas when you're in these markets that have very low cash flow, that $100 can be a big difference. That could be the difference between the house cash flowing and you actually having to come out of pocket to make that more, make the difference between what the tenant pays and what you have to pay in the mortgage. So that's another thing I like about these high cash flow markets. It's really good for new investors or investors who want to add high cash flow because there's room for error. That's the whole point of this. You're going to make mistakes. I mean, you're new, you're new to the market, at least, if it's going to be your first time in this market. Let's see, what else can I teach you guys? I mean, anything you want to know? We could talk about some owner finance stuff, although I stopped teaching that because people were, oh man, that's a dangerous thing to teach someone because they can do good with it, but they can do evil with it. And my heart, I just can't be responsible for people doing crazy stuff. But we can talk about it if you like to. I'm more than happy to share it. I got a bunch of stuff on it. I teach this stuff all the time. Let's take a look at, see what we have on here. Some things we could talk about some benefits of Section 8 and maybe some myths. So even though I'm a high cash flow rentals coach, most of the time I'm going to suggest your exit to be Section 8, because typically, as I just showed you guys, you're going to make so much more money on it versus if you had a cash renter in there, that it's just a really good exit. And it's not always Section 8. Sometimes we just, oh, hey, Jermon, I'm glad it popped up on your feed. I'm glad you're here. But sometimes, what's I saying? Oh, sometimes Section 8, is the best route, but there's other vouchers as well. So it's really good when you start with Section 8 because Section 8 tends to be the most structured. It's the longest standing one. And it's the most rigid. So when you get vouchers from other places, well, now, I mean, it seems easy because you've already come from Section 8. So let's talk about some things. As you can see here, I always hear people say Section 8 tenants are problems. By the way, HCV is just Housing Choice Voucher. That's the actual name of the program. And I can tell you right now, that is so false. It's not even funny. This is actually based on federal research. I didn't just make this up. But they usually stay for 7 to 8 years on average. Even if you look at the low of that, and maybe you can just say, okay, maybe 5 to 7 years. I mean, that's still way more than the average renter. Okay, average renters might stay 2 years. You might get lucky if you get one to stay at 5 at the max, but our Section 8 tenants don't leave. Like, they're not wealthy, right? So if you're on the Section 8 program, you have to be at a certain level of poverty. So it's expensive to move, right? So they want to stay. And typically they're going to take great care of your house because they want to be there. So it's such a myth that they're going to be problem tenants. And another thing is, people don't understand, you can screen your own tenants. Section 8 doesn't assign you someone. You screen them yourself, right? So you get to pick who you want to be or who you want to have in your property. I hear this all the time too. I heard you can evict Section 8 tenants. I'm like, that is crazy. Of course you can evict Section 8 tenants. So the way it works is with Section 8, you have two agreements. You have a contract between you and the government, the Section 8 program, and then there's a contract between you and the tenant, which is your lease. Okay, so the tenant has to meet all requirements of that lease. So it doesn't even just have to be non-payment, right? It can be, hey, in my lease, I said you can't park, I don't know, on the grass. You parked on the grass, I'm going to give you a 3-day notice that you got to go, or a 3-day notice to quit, and I can start the eviction process. You do not need permission to evict a tenant. Now, as a courtesy for your partnership with the government, you're going to let them know and let the caseworker know. And if you're open to rectifying it, great. You do not have to. The answer can be no, and you evict. And typically, you won't even make it to the eviction side of things because the caseworker is going to step in and start getting that Section 8 tenant, help to move someplace else. So that's, of course, a great benefit. And remember, too, if they get an eviction, they lose their voucher, not just for your house, but forever. So they're not going to jeopardize having a voucher for a place to live just to get on your nerves and be in a place where they're being evicted. They are definitely subject to eviction. I hear this a lot. Landlords can't charge the same rent. This is why I had such a long conversation earlier on this live about markets. You have to make sure you're in a market that is high cash flow. And so I showed you the chart. Go to HUD space FMR, and it'll show you the area rents by zip code. And so obviously the zip codes will reinvest. Section 8 pays a lot more than the market rate. So that's where you want to be specific on your market. But long story short, you can charge the full rent. Whatever you're going to charge for rent for the house, for anyone else, you can charge that full rent for Section 8. Okay, now the housing authority is going to come in and see if it's reasonable. So like if you're in a neighborhood where all the houses are, the rents are, I don't know, $1,500, and you're saying, I'm going to charge $10,000. They're going to say, no, it doesn't make sense. They're just going to look at comps. And there's been times where they did say, hey, the rent seems a little high. All you have to do is send in comps. No, it's not high. This is how much the rents are in this area. Very easy, guys. Section 8 does not assign tenants to landlords. That's a huge myth. Oh my God, that would be terrible. No, guys, you get to pick your own. You get to screen them just like you would screen anyone else. You can do an interview process. My tenant screener is amazing. I have it. I'll actually show it next. Mine is good because I like to do everything all electronically and automated, but I digress. The point here is you definitely get to screen your tenants, and you are going to screen them well, right? Because they're going to be living in your property just like anyone else. I can tell you personally some things. I try not to say too much about my tenant screening process, especially publicly, because, man, the Fair Housing Act, I don't ever want to say anything that sounds like I'm going against it. But I'll just say I have an avatar for the type of tenant that I want. And I make it very clear, to whoever's my property manager or the tenant placement agent. So for instance, personality is important to me. Like, I'm not going to deal with someone who's argumentative. And I'm not arguing with you about my house. Like I own the house, I'm renting it to you. I'm not going to be arguing with someone like that. So I like people who have like very just cool, laid back personalities, who just want to keep their head down, get their work done, and have a good life. I have a whole bunch of gems on Section 8, not just Section 8, but tenant screening in general, but I'll probably show it. Okay, so we talked about the myths. And if you have more myths that you need me to talk about with you, happy to put it in the comments. I'll probably come back and take a look at this, but this is a long live, but I'll be able to see the comments. All right, so some benefits for Section 8. Dependable. I always use the story like during COVID-19, never missed a payment. Section 8 kept paying while other landlords, I mean, they were losing everything, right? Because there was that moratorium where people didn't have to pay their rent during COVID. And so people who didn't have Section 8, those landlords, oh, I love this part, man. Those landlords used to look down on me. Oh, you're the Section 8 lady. Oh, you work with those Section 8 people, or that's who you work with. And then when COVID hit and I was still getting rent checks and they weren't, that's where my coaching business like became what it is now and just blew up because everybody was rushing me like, how do I get Section 8 tenants? I can't, I don't want to do this. I can't afford these mortgages, come on, I got you. Come on. So anyway, it's consistent as long as you're compliant, which you should be. I like that you get full rent and FMR. As long as your rent is, at or around what most people are paying in that area, you are definitely going to get what you ask for. I found in the market that we invest in, we actually get far more than the fair market rent. So that's why I tell you again, your market that you're in is so important. But I really, really like this because basically they do it based on the tenant's income, right? So if the tenant's income, I think it's like 30% of their income is what they're responsible for using towards their rent. And if let's say they lose their job or something like that, if you have a cash renter in there and they lose their job, I mean, you just got to deal with it. They can't pay. You got to figure something out. If you have a Section 8 tenant who loses their job, well, they just have to pay 30% of their new income. So 30% of zero is zero, right? So you still get your payments like you're supposed to. The only thing that changes is what the tenant is paying you versus what the government is paying you. So if the tenant loses their job and they now have no money, then the government's portion increases and the tenant's portion decreases. Oh, I love this part too. So since you're going to be investing virtually, if you're following my advice, you're going to be in markets that are high cash flow. Section 8 does free inspections every single year, and they give you a full report. And so they give you a full inspection before the tenant moves in. So like, let's say if you're in a remote area and, you're checking out a new, I don't know, contractor who you don't know that well yet. I don't know, whatever it might be. When Section 8 goes out to do the inspection, they're going to send you a full report of what the property's condition is, which is great. I usually like to get it because I don't even want to really spend a whole lot of money on getting a house all the way ready until I get that report because they'll tell me exactly what I need to do. But then every year after that, they're going to go out and give you a full report on the property. And that's really good because you guys know how much property inspections cost. So that can be very expensive getting someone to go out there every single year to do it, but they're going to do it for free. So I really like that. You can request an annual rent increase. I've always had my rent increases honored, except for this year. If you haven't heard yet about what's happening with the federal government and funding for the Section 8 program, a lot of housing authorities are just trying to like hold what they got to maintain. So they didn't lower rents or, say we're going to pay you less or anything like that, but they just said, hey, please consider not asking for an increase this year. And the market I'm in, it's already paying me. You guys already saw the examples. So much cash flow and above fair market rent. I don't mind waiting a year, of course. But before that, typically I would ask for an increase every single year. And then monies and morals, not or. You get to have both. You make money and you have good morals in this program. So you have an opportunity to help like low income, elderly, disabled, veteran households, children. More than 50% of these vouchers are going to the elderly. A large percentage of these voucher recipients or the people who live in these houses are children. I always share this story. My dad was on Section 8. He was an Army veteran. And so they have a program for Army vets to get Section 8. And it helped him out a lot, especially later in life, because he ended up having cancer and things like that. But long story short, it's helping the people it's supposed to help. I know everyone has this idea in mind that there are all these people who are, what do they think they're doing? Like tricking the government into getting Section 8 and they don't really need it and they're lazy. And I'm just like, you haven't lived enough because you know that there's bad apples in any and everything that you do. That's like, I don't want to say religion, but I was going to say it was like, you say, I hate all Catholics because a Pope did something to a kid. It's like, it's one out of billions. Like, are you, what? Come on now, make the numbers make sense. Same with Section 8. It's such a small percentage of people who are probably like reason by or who doesn't really need it. Very small percentage. But I can tell you, other than that little like 0.5%, the other 99.5% people are doing everything that they're supposed to be doing. They're just elderly or they have a disability. They can't work. And most of the people on Section 8 are children. You're going to make a 12-year-old go get a job? So please don't fall for the fluff where they're like, oh, these people are taking advantage. Let me tell you what I love about Section 8 and what probably why it exists. There are jobs that don't pay a lot in money, but they pay a lot in merit, right? Like when you think about an STNA, they don't make a whole lot of money, but my God, our healthcare system would crash without STNAs. They're the ones who help wash you up, help you use the restroom when you're in the hospital. Like, I mean, they do all of the things that you absolutely need and cannot do for yourself, like after a surgery or after you have a baby or things like that. Or think about the people who work at your kids' daycare. You know, a lot of them make minimum wage, which would qualify them for Section 8. They're not lazy. You know, they're with your kids all day long. But if it weren't for them, you wouldn't be able to go to work and make money. Veterans, elderly people, so just be very careful about what you're believing about Section 8. It exists to help people like you. Okay, back in the day, I don't want to go too deep into this, but it's alive and it's a long one. So in Cleveland, the Rockefeller family lived there. And when he first came over, he would build like these nice houses for like his executives. That's they could live there. Actually still exists there. It's a city in Cleveland called East Cleveland. You can still go see these houses. Then all the executives was like, okay, we're all executives here, but who's gonna like do the work? They don't have a way to get here from where they can afford to live. We need to have a way for them to live closer so they can actually like work. So then they had another portion of houses for like maybe like, managers or, the workers or whatever. Still nice houses, but there. And then it was kind of like you have the workers, or the managers, you have the executives. It's like, okay, but who's gonna like work at the grocery store? Like, how are we gonna get food? Who's gonna like fix our cars or watch our kids? Or like who's gonna make us have a deli, like what happens? And so then Rockefeller made like apartments and things like that, so that on purpose, people who have like the lower paying jobs can live closer to those who make money and those who are, owning the businesses so they can support them. Could you imagine you can't have a business if there's no one there to watch the kids? You can't have a thriving career if you don't have anyone who works at the grocery store, or you don't have any, what's the hospital if you got a bunch of doctors, but you don't have any STNAs? Who's going to do the non-doctor stuff? So just be very careful about your thoughts on Section 8. You want people like, STNAs and daycare workers and things like that to be close to where you are or where your job is so that you can drop your kids off or get the services that you need in your neighborhood. So be careful about what you ask for. Okay. Rockefeller, a very important, very wealthy man, learned that lesson the hard way. And it's a reason why we have communities that are diverse in terms of socioeconomic status, because we all need each other. Okay. That's my little soapbox. All right. We already did a lot of this stuff. I already showed you guys a lot of this earlier in the live, so I'm not going to get too deep into it. I can show you inspections. So if you want to know how to pass the inspection, you can just go to your local housing authority. Most of them have websites, and you literally can just look on the website and download it. And actually, Section 8 just moved to like a national inspection. It used to be like housing authority by housing authority, but the national one is called Inspire. So you can just look it up and it'll show you like a checklist of all the things that they're going to look for when they come in for inspection. A question that I get a lot is, so once my house has a Section 8 inspection, now I have a Section 8 house? And it's like, no, you don't have a Section 8 house, right? You can only have a Section 8 tenant. Wherever a tenant lives that has a Section 8 voucher, that house becomes a Section 8 house. And when that tenant moves out, the house is no longer a Section 8 house, okay? So it's not like, oh, this is my Section 8 house. No, it's you have a house and now you have a Section 8 tenant in there. Okay. And some people get that confused with like housing projects or housing developments. That's different. That's a housing development, typically apartment buildings that are made specifically for low income residents. But your rental house or even your rental apartment or your rental unit, it is not a Section 8 property. It is a property that you now began to accept Section 8 tenants into. Okay. I hope that makes sense. This is one of my favorite ones I always talk about. I always talk about this guy. But long story short, I'm not even going to show this because whenever I show owner financing, people want me to talk about that. And I will, but I told you guys I have to be careful about who I teach that to now. But anyway, this was a house one of my students bought, $50,000. He did get financing on it. So I told you guys, most people do. Like I like to buy cash, but most people get financing. So you got to finance $50,000, put the down payment in there. He had to go ahead. I always show you guys how to get your Section 8 trainings and things like that. A lot of them you can do online. Some of them you have to actually go like for very smaller housing authorities. But where I'm telling you to invest, you don't have to. And some of them just have a link. And all you have to do is just look on the link and they assume that you've read it. So not bad. And then, of course, I show him how to do tenant screening the way that I like. So I told you guys I like to have it automated. I like things to just be streamlined and simple. There's some special questions on here that I always make sure my people ask. Like I'll give you one. One of them is, you always ask how many evictions, but some people don't ask, have you ever had an eviction filed on you? Totally different answer. Okay. Or instead of saying, do you have a felony? I say, how many felonies do you have? Right. I'm not assuming that people do, but it's just the way you ask a question takes away that, does this count or does that count or does that count? Yeah, because I'm asking how many. Anyway, you didn't ask for a full training. If you want one, I have a course on this. You can, of course, buy or have, I don't care. If you're going to be working with me as my one of my mentees, or you want me to guide you through this process, all this stuff is done for you. If you missed it earlier, I literally have a GPT specifically for my clients and members of my community. So you don't even have to worry about all of this stuff. The GPT is going to do it all for you. And I always warn, don't try to do it on your own GPT. Okay. My GPT is trained. I don't know what your GPT is going to be saying. Okay. Mine is trained with all of my trainings, all of my videos, all of my courses is all in my GPT. So, please. Anyway, this was the house that my client bought. As you can see, I always have my clients use my contractor. So you'll notice they pretty much all look the same, right? And you want that. I always tell, and this is beyond rentals, but we have investment properties, at least for me, I like to have them all have the same color, all have the same basic, going to have the same flooring, because when things do break or things get messed up, you don't have to go and try to remember what gray did I use. All of them have the same gray. So I already know what it was. It just makes it easier. But anyway, we rehab them nicely. I always tell people who work with me, it's not about trying to pass the inspection. It's about, we are landlords, which means we are housing providers. We are not slumlords. So you want to make these houses one that you'd be proud of. And remember, people are products of their environment. If you have people living in trash, they're going to live like trash, right? If you have people living in a place they can take pride in, they're going to live like someone who has pride in their home. So we always do like the nice floors, fresh paint. This is the attic conversion. We usually do those in the Midwest, so you can get that extra bedroom, because the extra bedroom makes a big difference. As you can see, I'll just pull up some random place, but there's a big difference between what you make for a 2-bedroom and what you make for a 4-bedroom, right? So even between a 3-bedroom and a 4-bedroom. So we always try to squeeze in extra bedrooms if we can. And then of course, like small things like backsplash, guys. Like backsplash is a couple extra dollars per tile. Just do it. It makes it so much nicer and it feels better. Small upgrades on the cabinets, like you can even do, I think it's called Minwax that some of the contractors use. Is inexpensive, but it really gives it like an upgraded feel. So just go for it. And then you can see here, this was the rent offer that we got for that property. It was $1,250. This was years ago. I'm sure you get way more now, but back then it was $1,250. And as you can see, I did it for him. And then I just passed it on over. Now we have the VA or somebody will be doing it for you, or you can do it yourself. It's up to you. And then it just shows how the property was purchased. I love the receipts to just show you like, okay, this is how much it cost. This is what the down payment was. But this is another HUD. I explained the HUD earlier. It's just like the receipt for when you buy a property. Usually you get one on the buyer side and the seller side, but it just says where all the money went. And then this shows when that client was ready to refinance out. Again, this is going to get into owner financing, so I'm not even going to touch it because then I'm going to get a bunch of questions about owner financing. Okay, so essentially this was his testimonial. Jumping into real estate investment from another state can be a bit like finding your way through a maze blindfolded, but having Ashley on our team is like getting a super detailed map. She's a breeze to work with, always just a phone call or text away, ready with clear, straightforward advice that makes everything less daunting. What really sets her apart is how much we can trust her. She's transparent, honest, and genuinely looks out for us, making sure we're grabbing the best deals out there, and her resourcefulness, top notch. Ashley has this incredible knack for uncovering opportunities and solving problems before they even reach our radar. For anyone investing from out of state, she's the ace up your sleeve. And he's right. I'm great at what I do. All right, I'll check. I don't see any questions in the chat, but again, if you guys have any questions and you're watching this, the replay, put it in the chat. I'll come back and I'll probably do more lives over the weekend. I know it's Friday night, so everyone's out and you don't want to learn stuff. You've been at work all week, but I had to come on here. I was just feeling excited about the seminar that I did and I wanted to share it. These are just some underwriting. What time is it? Okay, I guess I'll wrap it up. It's been a while since I've been on here. If I do this, what is going to happen, people? I want to get... I'll show this. I just want to make sure that no, because then people are going to want to try to partner with me. So we used to do a lot of partnerships and we used to let people invest with us. I don't do that as much anymore, only because I like coaching better. I like coaching better, but I still am in love with numbers, as you can see. Like I love the numbers, so I still like to do a lot of the pre-underwriting, but now I just send it off to someone else on our team that will help you with that part. I mean, literally, I just gave you way more than what you would ever even need to get started. Like you got it. You can do this with or without me. The only thing I would say you would need with me that I have that, will obviously be helpful is obviously I have the experience. I'm already plugged into that market and my team, like my contractor, amazing. My tenant placement agent, amazing. Title company, amazing. My wholesalers, my realtors, awesome. So, coaching, working with a coach is like a shortcut. My mentor used to always say, one of my mentors, I have a mentor for almost every part of my life. He used to say, in life, we have a choice. You can get there by foot, by a bike, car, train, plane, or a jet. And the way people choose to get to places tells you a lot about them. So if I have to go from New York to California, meaning my goal is to go from having a 9 to 5 to having cash flowing rentals, I can do it myself, right? But that means I'm probably going to be trying to walk from New York to California. It is going to take me a very long time to do it. I'll probably be dealing with a lot of elements and all things in between, but it can be done, right? You have some people who make the drive and you can do that. Some people prefer the drive, right? but it's going to take time. It's going to take effort, energy, and other things like paying gas and all of that stuff. You got to stop for food. It's going to take you a while to get there. And then you have other people who are smart, right? That's why we read books. We get other people's knowledge and then we can quickly apply it. You have people who are going to hop on a plane from good. So the same distance from New York to California, well, now it's only going to take me 4 hours to do that instead of the person that's driving for 4 days or the person that's walking for 4 months. So if you have an option to take the plane to get your goal from point A to point B, you want to take the plane. And then you have some people who do the jet. The jet, in my opinion, is when I used to allow people to invest with me or partner with me. And it's like, I just do it all for you and you just get the check. But with coaching, it's like a plane. It's all there for you. You just have to plug yourself into it. Get the coach, get a me, and go from point A to point B in an airplane. If you are okay with just going by foot or on a bike, everything I just gave you in this live, you got it. You literally can do this yourself right now. You don't have to wait till tomorrow. You can just like log off and do it. You have everything that you need. But if you want to work with me, my team, have my guidance, I do have a link in the description. You can just click on it. You do have to apply. Unfortunately, I don't work with everyone. I really prefer to work with people who are coachable. That's really what I'm looking for. Are you going to take the advice? Are you going to do it? Are you going to fight me along the way? Because listen, like I always say, I know I look young, but I'm not that. I'm not fighting with nobody and trying to make you do anything. Listen, if you pay me to be your coach and I'm saying do ABC and you're like, no, I don't want to do that or I shouldn't have to do it. Don't. You hired me to be your coach, not your parole officer. Okay. So I really just look for people who are coachable, people who really are, you don't even have to be motivated. I just need you to be disciplined. Just show up when you're supposed to show up and we're good to go. And obviously it is not free to work with me. So if that's what you're looking for, I would say don't even click. If you think you're going to get my 10 years of experience and my incredible team, access to my course, my GPT, and being able to talk to me, have proximity to me for free, that is likely not going to happen. But God bless you. However, I do have an angel investor and he will cover your costs. So what he does is, and he is an angel. He literally doesn't make any finance charges. He doesn't get anything out of this. Well, probably taxes. I'm sure he writes it off in his taxes. But what he'll do is he'll allow you to do a payment plan and you'll just have to make payments every month. Most people do like 6 months payment plan. I've heard some people go as long as a year. I've never heard him say no to anyone. Like by the time you get to me, if you know we're working together or we're talking about it and you're coachable and you have everything, you're like, oh, but I just can't pay the coaching fee up front. I have never, ever heard him say no when I've asked him to cover someone. So you'll probably be good on that end, but I'm telling you, I am not free and I am the best of the best. I am not cheap. Okay. But if you want to have a conversation with me about it, my link is in the description. I love talking this stuff. As you can see, I've literally been talking for like 3 hours straight and we haven't even scratched the surface of everything. Anyway, I'm going to hop off. I hope this was helpful and I'm going to do more lives like this. I like just giving it all. Just take it, go, be great. And then when you are great and you want to thank me, let me invest with you so I can retire.